it going, guys? So, like I said, I have parts. Finally have parts for this thing. Been waiting quite a while to get what I have here, and this is not even to be able to finish the truck. This is just majority of things to get steps rolling, to get other parts that I have on this truck. So I'm going to kind of go through some of the things that I've gotten so far. Majority of this I did get off of Amazon for parts wise. As you know, like I had the headers and stuff ready, which are sitting on the ground behind me. But I kind of want to go through some of the things you really are crucial things you don't really think about when you're building a LS swap anything or a motor swap anything. There's a lot of little things you need just to put something like this together. I mean, in aspects to start, exhaust manifold gaskets, and I got Michigan Motorsports exhaust manifold gaskets. I think they're like $15, something like that. They are a crushed sleeve, 3-layer gasket, so it really help when kind of uneven surfaces. A lot of times when you're doing a full swap in a vehicle, factory things aren't going to work. Like a factory oil dipstick isn't going to work on this, and just for the reason of the headers I have on it. So this here is a dipstick. This is the engine oil dipstick for it. It's really nice. It's sealed with an O-ring on here. It fits right down the block like it's meant to. And then it's got this little bracket here that I can turn to put it where I need it to hold it. I mean, just something so simple like this can stop something for a really long time and having to order it. Kind of going through the box here, doing a swap. Need things like dipstick for the trans. Now this one's for the Turbo 400. It's always going to be different. Like I said too, is that we're not putting factory transmission in here and things like that. It's all aftermarket. Put a Turbo 400 in S10. So I got a flexible for this. This here is a 2-hole side. This is for firewall mounting. Same thing. It's got the O-ring there for sealing. It does have this tube here too for inside the trains if needed, depending on what build you're doing. I picked up a remote starter for it, so I can just click the starter to it. A lot of things like I want to pre-oil this as soon as possible, get oil flowing throughout the motor. So got the battery back there all charged up. Once I get the starter put in, I can turn this motor over and really get the oil moved around as soon as possible since it's a fresh build. Something like this too. This here. This one is just kind of cheap Amazon one. Honestly, I don't even remember what this one's for. But this is for the crossover vents for the heads. Something as simple as this can stop a build and hold the build off. I got all new. There's 4 in here with a crossover for the vents on there. Nuts, because you always need that kind of stuff. Clamps. This kit I got for the crossover vents. This one's came with Teflon tape here too. That'll be really nice to have. One big item. If you're just doing a quick swap and you're just doing a junkyard build, using the factory stuff is fine. I mean, I wouldn't say no to it by any means, but this one's kind of a build. I mean, the motor's completely built on it. Trans isn't yet. We're going to make it a driver. Then we're going to build the trans, but water pump. Something easy as that. I mean, you're throwing a junkyard motor in it and you don't know what that water pump's like. Heck, you could overheat the motor really easy. And that's just not fun at all. I mean, like times you had a motor heat up. we're gonna run once we change out this small little GM rear end to an 8.8 rear end, I'm just gonna use now it's lost my brain here. For the speedometer, we're gonna use the gear that bolts onto the 8.8 yoke that will spin, and then you have a sensor for it. We'll run a separate gauge for the speedometer in there. We're not gonna use any of the factory stuff. But I do have a block off port for the Turbo 400 for the speedometer cable, because we're not using that. Also did too, got some new Dorman motor mount bolts. That's kind of a crucial thing you need. I haven't even opened this yet. This one here is a big one. When you're doing these swaps in these, S10 or anything like that, clearance is everything. You don't have much clearance for things in there. And what this kit is here, this is an ICT billet front accessory kit. This is going to house everything for your power steering. You have an idler pulley, all the brackets for the alternator too. This is going to relocate everything where I need it for clearance. Power steering is actually closer to the block, so it's not going to hit the frame. Alternator is up on the right, it's kind of more outwards for clearance for the valve covers and things like that. You still need to use the factory tensioner off the water pump for it, but this is a really good kit. ICT billet, I mean, they have so much stuff that I've bought for this truck, for other things. I just really like all their stuff. I mean, when I did that Turbo Silverado, I used ICT billet for all my oil drains and feeds for the turbo, things like that. But something like this is really key, because a lot of the factory stuff is so big and bulky on a truck motor, you can't use it. Another crucial thing. Woo! New starter. I did opt for a PowerMaster mini starter on this. This is got up to 11-to-1 compression motor. It is plenty good for what we got here. It's not really bumped up compression much with the gasket surface or anything, so good there. I mean, this thing is a powerful little starter for such a little package. One thing I really like too is the orientation of everything. You're able to get to like starter bolt, ignition, all that very easy. So compact to be able to get to everything. I mean, this appendix is awesome. I really like it. This is going to go great with this build. Like I said, it's a PowerMaster Plus Max. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait to get those. They come with new bolts and shims if needed in there too. Big pieces that we needed. This one here, I didn't really need to buy this in aspects of this, but like I said, once it's running and driving, that Turbo 400 is coming back out, and it's going to get a full build done on it. So this was kind of a forethought item to help us in the long run. No sense me buying a regular trans cooler and then having to replace it later date. This here is a full trans cooler kit. I got all the hoses. Comes with all the fittings you need. And the big piece of the puzzle is this is a air-cooled trans cooler with a built-in fan. I can remote mount this wherever I want. A super nice cooler. You have both sides here. You go to the trans. This is going to get mounted underneath the truck, closer to the trans, just for use of room. There's not much room up in the engine bay. So far, looking at this, it seems to be a really great piece. This is a Doral Performance If you really want the stock number, the part number on here, it's 13950 for it. I think this is just a great piece. Like I said, this is kind of a foreseeing the future with the truck. I don't want to have to replace it or overheat the trans when we're having fun with it. So we got that. Like I said, came with everything to install it. All the fittings, hoses, all that stuff. And another thing too that you don't think about, if you've seen previous videos, we are going to making this carbureted. It's one of the things that the guy I'm building it for really wanted. He didn't want to have fuel injection, he just likes carburetors, which that's fine. It's gonna make less power aspect of that, but I'm not gonna use the knock sensors. I don't need it. So this here is a ICT billet valley cover. Because I don't need the knock sensors anymore, there's no sense in having the stock one on there. And for something like this, I think this was like 35 bucks on Amazon, or you can go to ICT Billet Specialties. They have all this stuff on there too. A lot of things like the headers. These headers, each side is a 4-piece header. So this bolts in the middle, this wraps around the outside of the frame. The two outside ones are actually on the inside of the frame. Stuff like that, you really need. I did buy, like I said before, the Holley. It's got the Holley oil pan for the swap pan for a lower sump. It actually sits back a little bit more. And then I have the Hedman's, it's Hooker trans cross member for the trans, that's for the Turbo 400 and a bunch of other things too. Mount all that. I mean, you have to buy bolts for the bell housing, bolts for the flex plate and the torque converter. I had to get a whole new torque converter I bought from Jay's. That's a 2800 stall converter to put in here to meet up with the flex plate too. I mean, we've done a lot so far, and this is going to get it a lot farther. And the main things that are left, things like drive shaft, things like intake, the carburetor, MSD, those are the biggest things. All this stuff right here, including this, is $850 worth of stuff right here. Then on top of it, you have $1,900 worth of intake and carburetor MSD system you need to buy. And then you gotta make the fuel lines, I gotta redo the brake lines, mount the radiator, make hoses for the radiator. You need a bypass for the water pump. A lot of things that a lot of people don't realize when building these vehicles, that it costs a lot of money. You need to have something that are going to be able to help you get through that build. I mean, I've done a lot of builds, like the Silverado. That was the cheapest build I possibly could have built. It was a $1,000 Silverado. I fully built the motor. I had stock bottom end, but all new bearings and everything on it. I think I spent $700 in parts in the motor. Full turbo kit with just a cheap Amazon turbo, Chinese whiz banger. I think I was $1,300 in that turbo build. So I mean, for a turbo Silverado, I was with a 4L60, mind you. I think for the whole build, I was like $4,000 into it. And this here, doing a full swap, I mean, the motor, $400. Another $800 into the motor. I mean, it's got LS7 lifters, LS6 springs, Texas speed cam, all new bearings, cam bearings, rod bearings, all new bearings, new rings, new valves. I reseat all the valves, new valve seals, all that's new. All new gaskets throughout the whole motor, which you can. I didn't really show the build on this one because I did that for the Silverado build, putting that together, but. I mean, that Silverado made some serious power just on a wastegate. The guy that's got it now is having a blast with that truck. I mean, he's just roasting tires. And I want people to know what it is going into this so that they don't have a project sitting there forever waiting. And this has been some time, from pulling the motor to building the motor to getting the trans, to putting it all in. It's been 4 or 5 months. to get where we are right now. It's not I'm going to pull this on out of here and push it all in here, just like a lot of people do on YouTube. It's not that way. A lot of people can't do that. I can't go buy a vehicle and be like, 20 grand, here you go. Throw it in there. I wish I could. I can't. It takes time. I mean, the Silverado took me a year, I think, for that turbo build. Building the motor, getting all the parts for it, putting it together, getting it running, driving again. It took about a little over a year to build that truck. And so many people watch all these YouTube channels and they're just throwing money in these cars and, oh, we got a whole new Texas Speed motor. I got all the Texas Speed. I got Holley EFI Live. I got the Terminator X. All that stuff is so expensive to do. I mean, Christ, one of those intakes alone is $600. I can't just fork out $600 for an intake. You know, I just want people to know what goes into these builds. Right now, I mean, the S10 was cheap. I think we paid like $300 from a neighbor. It didn't run. I need a head gasket in the 4-cylinder. I put a head gasket in it. Ran and drove. I pulled the motor and sold it for $350. That paid for the motor that's in here. And this is just a 4.8. You know, you go look for a 6-liter. You're paying $800 to $1,000 guaranteed for a 6-liter anywhere. This is 4.8s and 5.3s are fine. Build it, have fun with it. Go try to blow it up. You're not going to blow it up in stock form unless you did something really wrong. We've had fun with them, but we're doing good. I mean, we got tons of parts. Next video is going to be putting all this stuff on, getting the headers on, getting the starter in, hopefully turning the motor over with oil in it to prime the system, get oil moving around, getting all the accessory drives put on. That's a big deal. I mean, with all this stuff, trans will be completely buttoned up. That can get filled. I won't have to touch it till it's done running and driving. And that's pretty awesome. We got a lot to do. It's a big build for someone like me doing this in my garage. I mean, I don't have much. An aspect of what I have here, like I have 2 toolboxes that are pretty well filled with tools. I'll be paying Matco for a very long time, like a lot of us are. But I mean, 2 toolboxes, I got parts up there. I got parts up on the shelf over here. I mean, big things, drill press, grinder, plasma cutter. I have over there my TIG welder, and it's also a stick welder too. Just workbenches everywhere. I mean, my table, the trans sat on this table for the longest time. It doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, that was expensive. That engine lift was not cheap. I mean, a lot of my stuff was all Matco. I mean, I buy a lot of Matco stuff, and I guess I'll be paying that the rest of my life. I just paid off all the debt that I have except Matco. I sold the Duramax and paid off everything and bought the Ram. But this thing's going good. I mean, it's in there. Like I said, I got to pull that off, get it all cleaned. Put the ICT billet on there, but it's bolted in now, and that's the biggest thing. I don't have to take it back out. A lot of clearancing things I have to do, clean up, wires, brake lines, all that stuff. But we're going good, guys. Thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you guys can. This video was really just to show the guys out there what a build is like and what you have to spend and what you have to buy to do stuff like this. And if you need help, message somebody, ask for help. I help people all the time when doing these things. I have questions, I'm more than happy to help. I've thrown, hey, can you throw a cam in my Silverado, in my LS? Sure. It takes me 5 hours inside the truck to do a cam. So easy. But it's learning the process and knowing what you're doing. And that's a big thing. Super big thing. There's videos out there to help. I mean, yeah, have I learned some things from videos? 100%. 100% I've learned, but I've done it for a while. If you guys have any questions, please ask them down in the comments. Again, please like and subscribe, share share the videos. I want this to get out there so people know what they got coming. Anyways, you guys have a great night. Thanks for watching.